Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tales with Conductors. This is episode 9, A Portrait of Presidents. I'm Peter Wilson, music director of the Richmond Philharmonic in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm so happy you joined us again for this next episode here, episode 9. And I want to introduce once again my co-host, Will Patty, the assistant conductor of the Richmond Philharmonic. Good to see you, Will.
Good to see you too, Peter. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be back here again. I'm really excited for our new filters today. We have some new colors we're working with. I will be talking about my choice of jacket this evening as well, which I'm also excited to be wearing. But also just to let us all know that tonight there are opportunities to be donating to several different organizations, including the Richmond Philharmonic, if you are so inclined to do so. Also tonight, I want you to remind yourself that you can text RPO to 42828 to join our mailing list for event reminders and updates. And we'd like to take a moment, as always, to recognize long-term supporters of the Richmond Philharmonic, including the Virginia Museum of History and Culture for several years, the Virginia Department of Veterans Services for several years of support, Town Bank for 15 years of support, and Vogue Flowers for over 30 years of support to the Philharmonic. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Will. Yes, I didn't even mention our filters. This is a new one for us. You can't see my pink face here because Black History Month again. We had a great episode last time to kick off Black History Month, and we have such an amazing guest once again this episode, and I'm so excited to introduce him to everyone here. We have with us today the Assistant Professor of African American Studies at VCU, as well as the underwriting announcer at NPR, and he does lots of other stuff, and we're going to let him talk about that. Please welcome Dr. Chioke I'Anson.
Oh, snap. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, yes. The fade in. He comes
What's
in.
What's going on?
Welcome, Chioke.
What's happening?
It's great to see you again.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Noir Gang represent. The black and white squad in the house.
Black and white squad. I love it.
Chioke came in and quickly updated our knowledge of background filters we could be using, and we are happy to oblige. Thank you. It's a whole new thing.
He's got the microphone going on in the set. It's just fantastic. He's got lots of bells and whistles coming today, I think.
My whole jam is microphones. I was on microphones before y'all went into isolation. You know what I'm saying? I was always doing this.
All right. Oh, this is great.
Thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit about why we asked you to be a guest today. Of course, today is President's Day, which is a big deal here. And but it's also Black History Month, and so it's an interesting dichotomy here. But the connection here with those two things, of course, with you is that back in March of 2019, we invited you to come on to to play the speaker role in Aaron Copland's famous Lincoln Portrait, which is perhaps the greatest of all pieces composed for the classical tradition using a narrator. I think most people have pretty much realized that that's kind of the crown jewel. That's the gold standard. And you gave such a moving performance back in March. And I just want to thank you again for that. And thank you for being here today.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, because that was probably one of the more nerve-wracking experiences of my life. An experience that, I should say, had me wondering if you hated me, because when I first rolled up to first practice this thing, you were like, "Oh yeah, it's Lincoln Portrait. It's pretty cool. The last time I did it, James Earl Jones was the speaker. You'll do great. Bye." And then I was like, "I'm sorry. Excuse me. What?"
Well, now hold on a minute. To be fair, James Earl Jones did it, but I wasn't conducting that one. That was for President Clinton's
that makes it
inaugural.
That makes it so much better. That changes everything, Peter.
I have no experience conducting any kind of celebrities like that. But no, you were fantastic, and I want to get that. Honestly, I wasn't mad at you at all. I was fascinated by the fact that that you know this piece, and get, especially given the courses that you teach, that would have to deal with the content that we were speaking, right? By, Lincoln's words and about slavery and all this stuff on the battlefield at Gettysburg, for example. So I want to get into that, but before we do that, we always start our programs with cocktails. So we want to make cocktails. The three of us have cocktails today that we're each going to make. And what's unique about today is that when I'll tell our audience here, when I reached out to Chioke and I told him about this and the format, and hey, the first 15 minutes, we always make a cocktail. He said, well, I should tell you, I'm a bit of a teetotaler. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, there are fantastic mocktails out there. And Will's going to tell us a little bit about this fantastic website that has so many of these, because obviously there are lots of folks that don't drink for various reasons. And bars want to get creative about this kind of thing. So a lot of mixologists have gotten into this over the years, and this is just a lot of fun for us to do. But as a connection here as well, I got this new book that just came in this weekend that I found on the internet. I had to have it given my experience playing at the White House and this whole cocktails with conductors thing. And it's called Mint Juleps with Teddy Roosevelt: The Complete History of Presidential Drinking. And it literally has a chapter in there for every single president, several of whom didn't drink either. But it's fascinating to hear about, different parts of history like Prohibition and different presidents who were gifted with a lot of alcohol, even though people knew that they didn't drink. So it's kind of fascinating. And one of those was Abraham Lincoln. So it's a wonderful tie-in here because Lincoln didn't drink either. So we're going to make some mocktails here. So I'm going to let you start us off, Chioke. Tell us what you're going to be making for us today.
All right. So we are going to make a chai latte. This is my morning time drink. I don't drink coffee or anything. I strictly drink tea. And chai is one of the greats. It's a classic. It's right up there with Earl Grey and Darjeeling. And so here's how I do it. I have a tea infuser that I'm currently steeping the tea in from Kalijah Tea Lounge, which is a tea lounge down in Tampa, Florida, and it is super dope. So what I'm going to do is I already have a bit of honey in here, and it's been steeping for 4 minutes is the optimal time if you're just going to make a regular cup. But if you're going to mix it with milk, then steep it for longer. Like you can even like over steep it to where it gets bitter because it's going to get cut with the milk. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that in there, and I'm going to fill it to a little bit more than halfway. And then I'm going to run in the kitchen and I'm going to grab my milk because my milk frother just stopped. So just get here. I'm just going to make sure you can see that. Kalijah Tea Lounge. Hold on.
That's good. That's good. I like how he flip the camera around here and it's in color so we can see it.
Peter, we are dealing with an absolute pro. We're
dealing with a pro without question.
Getting an education here.
And I'm not a tea person myself. This is getting me excited about maybe getting into tea.
All right. So then put in some tea, put the froth on top.
Oh.
Bam.
It's magnificent.
And it's done, kids. It's done.
Done. Okay. All right. We're going to toast in a minute here. So Will, you go next. What do you have for us?
Sure. I have a drink. I first of all want to thank the website called imbibemagazine.com, which was recommended when I texted Sophia Kim, our resident mixologist. I said, we have a mocktail week coming up. What would you suggest? And she suggested this one website. I particularly like it because it does all sorts of recipes for alcohol, but it also has a huge alcohol-free section and a tea section. And for anyone who's interested in that, it has, articles and editors and people who are scouring the planet for new ways to drink alcohol-free, which I thought was really cool. I have something called the Ginger. Oh, snap. And it calls for 3 ounces of cold brew tea, which I'm actually using decaf today because I do plan on going to bed tonight at some point. And then it calls for lime juice as well. So this is lime juice and coffee together. gets like a dark and stormy kind of feel to it, if you know that cocktail, I think. And then it calls for a 1/4 ounce of maple simple syrup, which is basically maple syrup cut with a little bit of hot water. And then I am topping it with 2 ounces of ginger beer.
So
which I have right
Will,
here. Yes.
Will, can I jump in for just a second?
Yes.
Am I right in saying that the "Oh Snap" is literally part of the title of this drink?
It's part of the title of the drink. It's literally ginger, comma, oh snap, exclamation mark.
Love it.
So I probably want to measure this 2 ounces. I might eyeball it. I'm not quite at that level yet, but so 2 ounces. Here comes the fizz.
The jigger. The jigger.
Yeah, and this is Fever Tree. If you know Fever Tree, they
Oh,
make all
that's
sorts
good.
of tonics
That's
and ginger
the best.
beers. It's really good
Yes.
stuff. I fill with ice. Well, actually, I'm going to shake it. I'm going to stir it first, and then fill with ice. This is what
Look
I got
at that.
going on. Oh, look at you! Look at you!
That's what we're talking about right there.
Oh, and I realize I'm still in black and white, so you can still kind of. But I'm not ready to toggle just yet. I'm not that advanced. So I'm going to fill it with ice. It says to fill the glass with ice. So I'm going for it here. Filling with ice and garnishing with a lemon wedge. Oh my gosh. And here's mine. Here's my ginger oh snap that I'm about to enjoy.
Yummy.
That's
Yummy.
what's
I'm
up.
excited.
That's
Thanks,
what's
man.
up. Okay. All right. So I'll quickly make mine because this is the first time I think we've had 3 completely different drinks to make. So my shaker here. I'm going to change my color settings because I think it's important for you guys to check this out. To check out the colors here. I chose this. Whoa. Might want to turn down your settings there. It's a little pink. But this is appropriate because my drink today is called the Pink Panther. And this came from a list that I found online of mocktails in honor of Valentine's Day. So, that was yesterday. And I thought that we needed to give a shout out to all the lovers, and Virginia's for lovers, right? So I'm just, kind of jumping in on that. So we need 4 ounces of pineapple juice for this. Already measured this out. And then I need 8 ounces of pureed strawberries. That's 1 cup for you people that don't know how to do the conversion. Oh, that's good. That's lovely there.
Whoa.
And then we're supposed to put a little bit of light whipped cream in here. There you go. Note the blue bottle and the pink, a little bit of patriotic presidential colors here.
I see.
And then a splash of club soda, which I threw a little bit in the jigger here. We'll just throw that in here. And now I'm gonna stir this up a bit. Okay. And hopefully we can pour this through the strainer. It's my first time making it, by the way. And I have my Monticello glass. I don't know if you can kind of see
nice.
that.
Yep.
We've got different presidents here. We've got Obama back here. We're trying to bring it all in. Okay.
So you put the whipped cream in
Pretty thick.
before
Yeah, I
you
did.
strain it?
Yeah, I know. See, I'm thinking maybe I should just take that top off there and pour it all in. Because what's interesting is at the end it says garnish with more whipped cream.
Whoa.
So that's the only reason I didn't that I mixed it in there. Okay, well, that's how we go. That's how we're rolling with that. And we'll put a little bit more on top, right? And
Oh my.
happy
Yo,
Thanksgiving.
cocktails
Happy
are
President's Day.
ingredient intensive.
And here's to Chioke, our fantastic guest. Thank you for being here.
Cheers. I'll
Cheers.
take it. I love tea, you guys.
Oh my gosh.
The Pink Panther, ladies and gentlemen. The ginger, oh snap.
Oh man.
And a little
If
chai latte.
you're not making your own tea from loose leaf at home, fix that. We got to do better. We got to do better. We're not gonna survive the year off of tea bags.
This is, yeah.
Thank you.
I can see what you're saying there. This is good. Okay, so I'm going to get back to Noir here. And Chioke, tell us a little bit about this media center that are you running this new media center? I'm understanding it's the VPM and ICA Community Media Center. Tell us about that.
Oh man, it's a whole thing. So what happened is that we got the local ICA right here on Broad Street together with VPM, our local NPR station, to go in on a venture that is essentially an educational space around podcasting. So in the second floor gallery of the ICA, off in the back, we're going to start construction on a studio and classroom space. Now, in this space, anyone in the city, anybody, anywhere, any member of the ICA, any member of the community, faculty and staff at VCU will be able to roll up and get instruction about how to produce podcasts, and then after that, how to produce other media like videos and that kind of thing. So just think of it as the ICA's educational outreach. Think of it as media training, and think of it as one of the ways that we're going to find the voices of the future, like the future voices of media. This is the idea. We are currently.
What does ICA stand for again?
Institute for Contemporary Art.
Okay.
It's like a non-collecting gallery. But one of the things about the ICA is that it really wants to commission new work and be at the center of creating things and not simply showcasing them. And of course, one of the values of VPM is community engagement. And so thankfully, we were able to get these two great institutions together to share the load for this like pretty major undertaking. Nothing like it before at an ICA. Very few stations are doing something like this. So we're blazing trails here in Richmond. And we also recognize that there's so much media talent in Richmond, and we want to do our part to help it get bigger. Yeah.
Great. Where are you finding your media talent? Is it youth? Is it professionals? Is it college students you're working with?
Oh man, it's so many. So my students, certainly. I teach a course called Podcasting While Black, and I've had students go from that class to working at NPR to getting being like an AIR, Association for Independence in Radio and New Voices fellow. So there's some things happening there, but there are also people in Richmond who are just independently producing podcasts, and maybe they're not as well known, and I'd like to help them become more well known and to bring people to Richmond to share their skills so that we can all improve our production quality. So this season, for instance, over the next few months, I'm bringing people from NPR, from Radiotopia, other independent producers to come in on live Zoom sessions and teach us about mixing, about doing the music for a podcast, about writing a script. And we're also going to have a live show featuring a podcast from Radiotopia called Criminal. And so that all starts actually this Wednesday. The first session is happening this Wednesday, and that's when I'm going to share ideas about how to refine your podcast pitch. Because you see, guys, everybody has a podcast idea. Everybody has an idea, but very few people have a pitch. They mistake their idea for a pitch, which is the thing that you need to start production. And so we're gonna move from the I have a topic idea category to I have a pitch, something that maybe I can sell to someone or something that I can use to start making editorial choices for my podcast.
Right. It's a more powerful thing to get a hold of. To get Christian. That's great.
We knew that there was a good reason to have you on. We have this video podcast, and you're bringing some, some heavy weight here for us.
Look, I've got some notes, so I mean, we can talk about it.
This is good. This is good. We need this. This is good. We're in episode 9 now. We're learning as we go. So talk about some of the. You mentioned this course that you teach. Podcast. What's it?
Podcasting While Black. Yeah.
What are some other courses you teach at VCU, and how has the pandemic affected how you've maybe, had to, pivot? Sorry to use that word. We're using it all the
Sure.
time, but how have your courses changed because of the pandemic, or how you've approached that? How have you seen a lack of engagement or more engagement with your students? You mentioned something early on about going into noir, for example, to draw the students in, because this is kind of unique. So tell us about that.
Oh man, where to begin? Well, first off, I normally teach the core classes of the African American Studies major. So that's like Intro to Africana Studies, Black Social Political Thought, African Diaspora, and then I do some special classes. And however, because of this new thing where I'm directing the Community Media Center, I've got like the course release action kind of popping. And so I'm mostly focusing on teaching the podcasting class and then also running the media center. However, I am still teaching courses online, because I was in spring of last year, I was teaching courses in a classroom where I would maybe not walk around, but like sit sternly at a table whilst scribbling on something, you know what I'm saying? Like with a dry erase marker. And that changed quickly. And then we all had to just suddenly be online, not having our classes set up for that, not being ready for that in any way, shape, or form. And I was maybe a little bit better equipped than others because I do like some videography, because I have a recording studio in my place, because I'm a bit more tech savvy than your average professor, maybe. But even so, students and teachers were not, our minds were not set and ready to be online. And the students had to go back to being online in the midst of terrifying events that had consequences for them and their families. So morale was it was pretty low by the time we went online for spring. I mean, VCU went on spring break, and then VCU was like, you know what? Don't even come back. And so it was weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Most universities were doing that. My son's at Indiana, and after spring break, they just pretty much, most schools just said, don't come back for now, because nobody knew what was going on. I mean, they didn't know how it was going to. I had to start teaching through, lessons through Zoom or through FaceTime. FaceTime's a little easier, actually. The audio is better through the phone, but yeah. So how? There's so many things I want to ask you, because there was the pandemic, but then there was also George Floyd, and the monuments, the Confederate monuments in Richmond, and Black Lives Matter, and all of this stuff. I mean, how, that has to have also thrown a bit of a curveball, although I mean, you would know how to pivot in something like that, partly because of your tech savvy, but obviously this is what you're talking about on a regular basis. And so it's like, right. I mean, well, okay, here, this is happening. I was just talking about this in class, right? I mean, how did that all play in?
Well, generally speaking, it's always been the case that in my department, we've been very responsive to current events. Years ago, when I hadn't been here for very long, Ferguson happened. And the thing about students here, about Black people in general, possibly, is that there's an enormous psychological weight that accompanies these kinds of events. One of the fundamental principles of, I think, Black life is this concept of anonymity, which is to say that there are times when a thing happens to a person and that many Black people interpret it such that, oh, that could have happened to me. Like there isn't any fundamental difference or distinction between me and this person who was shot by police or by an overzealous person who is armed with the idea of stand your ground. Or so these are things that always hit that immediately hit home. There's our empathy for those events, and then there's the general knowledge that I must say endures through time, that there isn't anyone coming to help, right? So when events like this happen, in my classes and in the classes of others elsewhere all over the place, we have to stop and talk about just this thing, just the current events. I try to teach history because there's so much to cover, but we always every year or so there's cause to stop and think about what's happening and what our maybe the best reaction to it is, how to think about it, how to manage one's emotions around it. It's a constant thing. And I definitely did not enjoy not having so much of a connection with my students through the end of the semester and the past summer, right? I would have been much closer to them during those times if not for the pandemic.
Yeah, I mentioned this in our before we went live about how last night I watched this new movie, Judas and the Black Messiah, and as heartbreaking as it was, just the story and everything, the thing that really hit home was the fact that this was 50 years ago and it could have been today. I mean, it just blew my mind how much of things haven't progressed as much as we'd like to think. I mean, it's whole, during the Obama administration, people would, kind of carelessly say, "Oh, well, we have a black president now, so everything's fine," right? and then after that, we start to see that actually there still is this undercurrent, right, of white supremacy and racism and all of this stuff. And I don't want to relitigate the whole January 6th thing, but obviously seeing this movie in the context of everything that's happened in the last, month and 4 years, it just really struck me at how that could have just been today. I mean, there were just so many parallels. It was really striking.
Hey, look, time is a flat circle, right? I'm sure you've all read in Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail that there isn't anything about the passage of time that necessitates transformation or change or progress, right? Like things don't get better with time at all. Like things only get better because of what people do with their time. And it's very clear that the forces of racism and stupidity and state power, that all of these things really like to maintain this status quo, and everyone's got to do something if there's going to be further change or progress, and they have to be very specific things, and there have to be coalitions and all the things that the people who are often demonized are talking about, right? So yeah, it's really great, you guys. I'm really glad you've had me on to have this conversation.
It's incredible to hear your thoughts on it. I'm actually, from an education standpoint, I teach elementary students, and shifting into the Zoom world was I could certainly speak to losing the emotional connection, and it makes every single there's like a question mark that kind of floats above every session where it's like, how deep are we getting this? And it is that veil is there, and I see that all the time, and I can only imagine. I get the joy of teaching music to little people, but with heavier subjects that do come up sometimes with students, it seems like we always have to spend time addressing mental health in the room. And content quickly kind of dissolves sometimes, and lesson plans can kind of fade out the door, so we can deal with a more present moment. And I'm excited for when that turns back into the classroom, and what things we can keep that we've been doing because of the virtual divide, and what things we can get rid of that we were doing before. I'm excited for the new in-person class experience whenever we get a chance to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be some changes to how we do the education. It's not entirely clear what it's going to look like, but I guess I share I look forward with you to the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, Chioke, is that, Will and I have been talking about the importance of the arts in this cause. I mean, and what role we can be playing in all various forms of art, of course, but obviously our form is orchestral music. You've worked with us before, and we just wanted to hear your thoughts on what you think that we could be doing better to, I mean, there are lots of levels of this. There's diversifying our audience, for example. There's trying to diversify our programming. We've had a lot of discussions about the Black American composers, for example. And, I'm going to be playing a concert next week where we're featuring all Black composers. One of them happens to be English as well. So it's not just Black Americans, but the big one is William Grant Still, who is considered the dean of Afro-American composers. But there's so many fantastic composers. There's Florence Price, there's George Walker, there's many modern composers as well. But a lot of these composers were kind of, in the, they were known to be very talented, but there were obviously forces that kind of kept them down. And now a lot of symphony orchestras are really celebrating these great composers. But I just wanted to hear, we wanted to hear your thoughts on the power of the arts and what maybe we can be doing to reach out to that, that part of the community and get them more engaged.
I mean, I always think, along with others, that art is a form of reflection. Sometimes it's individual reflection, sometimes it's community reflection, but people use art to think through what's going on. They use art to say things to the rest of the world. And they use art to prepare themselves for what it is that they need to do, like to go deeper or to stand out or whatever it is. I don't know too much about classical music and its way of doing things, right? Like I cannot stress to you how alien an environment was doing Lincoln Portrait with you. Just sitting with the orchestra itself was like a fit of madness. But I think also that maybe that kind of experience that I had is an example of a kind, because I really, like, up until that moment, I never had any engagement or any serious cause to be like that deep into, you see what I'm saying? Like into music. When I did encounter it, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty great, but I don't know. So I guess I'm wondering about if there could be different ways to experience what you do other than that way in which, oh, well, we're going to go to a thing and sit in the audience and then watch the show like up on the stage, right? I think that framework by itself is something that maybe is due for an update. I mean, we see all of these cats on the internet making music in these like cool and neat ways. And so like maybe this is like one particular example or way of doing things, right? There's always, the exclusion is often coded in the structure, right? This is and it's hard to see because the way that things have been going is often all that we've ever known. And so a way that white people might approach Black History Month is, okay, well, now I will read a Black history book, or I will like learn a Black history fact or whatever. And that's cool. But I think that one of the hallmarks of Africana studies is that it's not just about learning particular facts. It's also about learning to see the world in different kinds of ways. But once you see the world in different kinds of ways, it's impossible to go back or to simply view the life that you've been living in the same way as being unproblematic, we'll say. And so I think that the struggle is always breaking the structure, what you take to be the structure of the everyday, because whatever that thing is, that's the status quo, and it probably has had some hand in making it difficult for other people to get ahead, right?
Yeah.
So probably the answer isn't going to come from me, but I do think that the question is, whatever the way that we've been doing things is, that needs remodeling. It needs to be broken in a certain kind of way so that we can even put ourselves in the space where it's possible to see the alternatives.
Wow. I would, what you're saying is really blowing my mind, Chioke. Thank you. I really appreciate your response to that question, but I also have to add that if you were having any stress in the rehearsal, I did not see it. You came in, and I want to say that the reason I'm wearing my motorcycle jacket is that you came in with a motor. This is talk about break the structure. Where I was in the orchestra as a lowly trombone player in the back, and we were really excited to have you. And I really had a real celebrity moment because I knew your work with NPR, and you came in the room, and I just wanted to experience very much just enjoying working with you. But you had a motorcycle helmet and you had a big black leather jacket, and you walked to the front, and you never took off that leather jacket once the entire rehearsal. And so before tonight came, I dug through my closet, and I was like, I need to find this one jacket. So I'm wearing my motorcycle jacket in honor, but I thought you handled it really well. And it was really excited to be working with you. So I didn't see the stress. I mean, you were a total pro.
I suffer from a case of stage calmness.
Wow.
So it's it's arguably good because I can, show up in front of a microphone or whatever. And I think that part of it is because of the 15 years of teaching and going and standing before people every day for work. But in the moments when people don't see me, I'm freaking out, man. I remember the first time I did guest judge on Wait, Don't Tell Me, which I think also was in 2019. And we were at the Chase Auditorium in Chicago, and Peter Sagal was like, "Hey, Chokes, it'll be great. You'll do fine," And they're filling up the theater, and people are there, and they've got and they've haphazardly pasted my name over Bill Curtis's name at the podium or whatever. And I was just like, I'm not supposed to be here. How did this? What's happening? This isn't. I was in my pajamas yesterday, so oh man. So I went into the back, the wings where y'all have been backstage, you know what I'm talking about. And I just took a bunch of breaths, and I started reciting rap lyrics, which is how I focused myself. And then I went out and did the show, just nervous, my leg nervously twitching the entire time. I don't think you cats understand because that's what your life is. But I was in the middle of an entire orchestra. Do y'all get I mean, you can't you can't understand what I'm saying because this is what you do, right? And I think that perhaps it's a testament to the depending on your domain. Your domain is mundane to you. My domain is mundane to me. But the only time you really get to see what it is that you really do is through the eyes of someone who's experiencing it for the first time. And when your damn trombone went off, I was in the thing holding on to the. So this is what I'm saying. It's madness. It's madness. Do you have a motorcycle to go with that jacket?
All right. So, am I allowed to own a motorcycle jacket without owning a motorcycle?
I do not understand what is happening.
I'm sorry.
Look, if you like the jacket.
My father owned a motorcycle.
Imagine how much you're going to like the motorcycle. You know what I'm saying? There's just nothing better than riding a motorcycle under the conditions that you want. And since we're talking about jacket, I have the jacket that I wore that night right
there. There we go. There it is.
I want to show and tell This isn't the jacket that I wear most often, but it's the jacket I wear the fastest. And this is my
Wow.
My racetrack jacket. This is the jacket I wear to the racetrack. It even has the speed hump on the back.
There it is. Wow.
And let me tell you, like as cool as you might feel when you wear it, when you're going 140 miles an hour down the front straight, that's better. That's better. So that's why we wear the jackets.
Holy cow.
Where does Richmond Philharmonic fit in with the wait, don't tell me pressure, Richmond Philharmonic pressure, 140 miles on a motorcycle? Are we in that tier somewhere? Are we at the very top as the most pressure environment you've been in, or this is base?
It's right up at the top.
Oh, wow.
It's right up at the top. No, because if I made any mistakes at wait, don't tell me, they're just gonna cut it. It's not gonna air on the radio. You see what I'm saying? And I've been doing motorcycle stuff for like so long that 140 miles an hour like isn't even that big a deal. The braking is got some stress involved, but but it's fine. But for your show, it's like, oh, well, don't worry, Chokes. We're only doing this one time. And if you miss the cue, it'll ruin the show.
No. Come on now. There was a moment in there where I explained that we can do a vamp if you don't quite come in right, but we're okay. Now so I'm going to jump in here because I have to tell you that you were a consummate professional, and I appreciate you telling us that you were freaking out. I get extremely nervous when I play a violin solo with an orchestra. So I get what you're saying, that we feel comfortable because it's our universe, but it doesn't mean we're nerve-wracking elements when we're soloing. I also have friends that when they're like you, where the more nervous they get, the more calm they get. So it's sort of funny. And when I know that about them, I go, oh man, he is super calm. We need to get him some caffeine stat. Anyway, but I want to tell you about I love what you talked about with this experience of coming in with Lincoln Portrait. And I made the false assumption that when you said, yeah, I'll do that, that sounds great, that you probably knew of the piece. And that's my fault. I probably should have said, hey, here's a recording. Why don't you listen to this, get an idea of what this is about? And I think that for somebody that was coming in having no knowledge of it, I could see where you probably just thought, oh, it's like Peter and the Wolf or something, where I'm just going to read something and there'll be music behind it, but there won't be a whole lot of coordination. And obviously this does have a good bit of coordination. But what I loved was that in a way, it was a great opportunity for us to be able to introduce this music to you. And this is part of what I love about being a conductor of the community orchestra, because very often we have members in the audience that have literally never heard these pieces before that we're performing. And these are from the standard literature. These are pieces that if a major symphony were to play them, probably 80% of the audience has heard them. And that's why they're there, because they want to hear that piece, because they love that Brahms symphony or that Tchaikovsky symphony, and they know exactly how it goes. And this is my favorite piece. But in the community orchestra, very often we're bringing in perhaps a more diverse crowd that doesn't have this knowledge. And so when you came in, I knew how powerful this piece was, but I love watching somebody who's never heard it before hear it for the first time. So when you told me that you hadn't heard the music and you weren't really sure where this all went together, I was like, okay, I got this. Why don't you just sit down in this chair and listen to us play the piece first? And I think I even did the speaking part just so you kind of knew where it would go. And I kept looking over at you. And man, when the brass just ripped wide open, like, the floodgates, and the sun came shining through, and you heard the impact that the music had under the words, I saw the light bulb go on for you, and that's why I wanted to ask you what you were feeling in that moment. Because I think you had your jacket on because you were ready to run out and get on the motorcycle. Oh man, I got to learn this piece, But honestly, I wasn't upset. I was more grateful that we had the opportunity to, because we had time. I mean, we had, it was like the concert was going to be, at the end of the week, but I knew that we were ready, and that as long as you trusted me, we were going to be fine. And I just loved that we had the privilege of getting to introduce that piece to you for the first time.
Look, it was pretty dope. I got to say, this was the first time that I understood what a conductor even did. I mean, I'm not a musical person. I don't know anything about, I don't read music. I don't play instruments. And so when I do see a conductor conducting an orchestra, I mean, I watched the whole series of Mozart in the Jungle, and I was still like, I don't know what conductors even do. He's just like pointing a wand at people. Like, I was like, I don't even get it. But sitting in the rehearsal, watching you do that, and also hearing the difference, like hearing how things are different depending on how you conduct, made me finally understand. And I've gone my whole life not really knowing that. I mean, people go their whole lives not knowing about this aspect of music or this aspect of art or this aspect of history. And we deny ourselves, or we rather are denied certain types of enrichment because of that, right? So I was immensely like appreciative of being able to figure it out. Like, I'm the kind of sucker that's always like, oh, that's a new thing I've never done. I guess I'll agree to that, right? But I do wonder what it would be like on a field trip if a kid got to hold the wand and got to poorly conduct the orchestra for a couple minutes, so that they could see, so that they could get an idea, so that it could be in the back of their mind over the development of their life and play a role in the choices that they make. I mean, this is the kind of thing I think that we want more of, you know?
Oh yeah. And you just had me thinking of ideas. We have to have you back and get on the podium and let you experiment. I mean, it would be great if we had like a piece of music that we kind of know, and then have you do different things. I could give you like a quick little lesson on just sort of the basics, and then let you get up there and experience this. And we should actually, when you talk about a field trip, I was thinking how cool it would be to collaborate with you and bring your students in when we're able to do that again, when we can get back into the concert hall, and to have maybe your students come to a rehearsal and see how we put this stuff together, and maybe have some of your students get on the podium and sort of feel what that's like. It's like kind of being a puppet master, you're kind of pulling strings and things like that, and seeing how you can shape sound with your hands is really what it's all about.
We'll put it on a tiny desk for April Fool's Day.
Oh my goodness.
There you go. Okay, so I want to, in our remaining time, I thought it would be fun if we could kind of reprise your role as the speaker for Aaron Copland's Lincoln Portrait, just the final, that final moment with the perhaps the most climactic elements of Lincoln's speech from his Gettysburg Address. And then what I'm going to do is, because I know that Zoom won't allow us to play together, I'm going to play the famous trumpet line after you've finished, so that people can get an idea of the kind of the breakdown of this, what the spoken text is, and then what Aaron Copland wrote to accompany that behind it. And if the folks can imagine a trumpet in the back of a battlefield kind of playing, it's sort of like a taps moment. That's kind of what Copland was trying to get out. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Chioke I'Anson.
Oh man, are we doing this now? Where's your violin at? Am I reading this thing right now?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me put my headphones on straight. Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States, is everlasting in the memory of his countrymen. For on the battleground at Gettysburg, this is what he said. He said that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Thank you very much. If I may, can I say a few words about stuff?
Yes, please. And give us some
Okay.
links. Give us some links to go to.
All right, I hit you with some links as well. Okay, the first thing is that spotlights create shadows. And in American history, there's a very large spotlight on Abraham Lincoln. And so then the shadow that is created by that is also very large. And in that shadow are the struggles of Black people who tried to make their own freedom with or without the Emancipation Proclamation. And also the struggles of Black people in the aftermath of the Civil War and the period of Reconstruction. Living in Virginia, there's a lot of people that know a lot about the Civil War and not a lot of people that know about the trials and tribulations and successes and frustrations of Reconstruction. So I just want to suggest that if Black History Month is your thing, you should check out a few texts. Now, one of those is W.E.B. Du Bois's text on Reconstruction. There's a Reconstruction documentary on PBS, which I understand is pretty good. There's also this book. It's called Black Fortunes, and it's the story of the first 6 millionaires of Black millionaires of the Reconstruction era. So these are people who were in the 1800s, in the late 1800s, who are enterprise and work and become millionaires. And I bring it up because it is it's a perspective that we don't often think about or that we don't often hear, right? Like there's the statue of Lincoln with the enslaved person with the chains, right? Like that's the image that we have. And that's the thing that everybody needs to fix. And one way that you can do that is by listening to a new VPM podcast, which is called Seizing Freedom. And it is nothing other than the story of Black people trying to make good on the promise of freedom during the Civil War and beyond. And that's something, it's out now. You can, well, not all of it, but it's coming out now. And you can listen to that at vpm.org or in your podcast app or however it goes. Remember that the point is not just to know stuff, but also to think differently. And in order for that to happen, you have to encounter the right stuff, the right texts, and also ask the right questions.
Thank you. That's
Wow,
amazing.
fantastic. Thank you so much for that. We wanted to put some links up too of some of the charities that you've been supporting.
Yes, primary among them is Mother Health, which is an organization that trains birth attendants and midwives, mainly in Uganda, but they do very important work, and they lower their practices and their education and training is lowers infant mortality, like well documented lowers infant mortality where they work.
Amazing.
Outstanding.
That's
Dr.
inspiring.
Chioke I'Anson, it has been such a pleasure having you on with us. Thank you so much for being a guest. It's just been profound. I mean, just being able to sit here and listen has been just a privilege. I know I speak on behalf of Will as well. Will, if you want to take us out with some of our sponsors again, but we hope you'll join us in 2 weeks. We will be in March at that point, March 1st. We're going to be celebrating Women's History Month. We're going to be having on a woman composer by the name of Elena Ruhr. She's fantastic. She's going to be our guest with episode 10. But for episode 9, Dr. Chioke I'Anson, thank you so much. I'll let you speak if you want to here at the end before Will takes us out.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's been good to sit and chill and do a thing that is not my work emails. So yeah, I hope to see you cats soon, maybe in person.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chioke. Again, to thank all of the supporters, Virginia Museum of History and Culture, the Virginia Department of Veterans Services, Town Bank, and Vogue Flowers, thank you so much for your support. If you want to donate to Chioke's organization that he mentioned, motherhealth.org, it's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us, and the Richmond Philharmonic as well. And thanks so much for joining us here again. It's an honor to be with everyone, and certainly an honor to share the time with you, Dr. Aaron. It was amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, y'all.
Happy President's Day. Take care.
Good night.